Andrew, thank you for joining the Rizz Podcast. Today, I'm very happy to have Andrew Schimmel here, the Director of Acquisitions and Public and Private Partnerships from UC San Diego's real estate team. On today's podcast, we're going to talk a little bit about how public university can use private capital and long-term ground leases to create a more complete campus neighborhood while preserving the university's land ownership and advancing affordability goals. So, Andrew, do you want to first start talking a little bit about your background and a little bit about what you do on a day-to-day basis?
Sure. Thank you for having me on this. Very excited to talk about public-private partnerships and creative ways that we can get real estate development done in this challenging time with high cost of construction, high cost of capital, et cetera, et cetera. So my background is I'm a lawyer. I got my start practicing law, representing contractors and construction defects claims, but quickly pivoted to the development side where I founded my own development company where we specialize in student housing. And I think that's where I got my first taste of development within a university setting. Fast forward 15 or so years, and here I am at UC San Diego. I'm the director of real property acquisitions and public-private partnerships, which is a very fancy way of saying real estate development, but within this context, it's a partnership between the public entity, the university, and private partners who specialize in bringing the financing, the construction expertise, and other expertise. So,
When we met about a month ago at the BizNow event student housing BizNow event down in San Diego, I was really impressed after talking with you, and I'm just so thrilled that we're able to dive into some of this. For whoever's listening, I think it will be helpful. So for coming out of the gates, the first question I have is the University of California system includes 10 campuses with a mission centered around education, research, public service, and improving lives. So, how does the real estate support that mission, both at UC San Diego and across all the other UCs?
well, our facilities, I think first and foremost, give our students, our faculty and staff, the environment to do their business, whether it's students for learning, faculty and staff for teaching. We want to provide them the state-of-the-art best facilities that will attract and retain the best students, the best faculty and staff across the board. Usually, within a university setting, the university develops within the confines of its campus. And here at UC San Diego, our construction partners here within the campus, it's a department called CPM. They're great at developing on-campus facilities such as academic buildings and student housing. Where my team comes into play is when we make purchases of property off campus, such as we're developing a state-of-the-art healthcare facility about 15 miles away from campus that furthers the healthcare mission of the university. So in that case, we go out and we purchase the property and we team up with a private partner who specializes, in this case, healthcare center development. And we jointly go about developing the property to create a state-of-the-art healthcare center that will hopefully serve San Diegans for many, many years to come.
So, when you're talking to potentially new partners, how do you judge if they're the right fit for a project that you have?
Well, I think we like to see some some sort of specialization in the specific asset class. So within the P3 realm at UC San Diego, we've developed office slash academic buildings. We're developing a healthcare center. We're currently looking to select a developer to develop an on-campus hotel. And in each of those projects, we've looked for a development partner that has uh, expertise in developing each of those asset classes. So that's first and foremost, have you done it before and have you done it successfully? I think those are probably the two most important things.
And talking a little bit about the capital, what size are some of these projects and what types of financing are you looking for? How much financing does the university put in versus what you're looking to raise?
I would say it's different. Um, and that's what's great about this role is that there aren't two projects that are alike, and that's what makes this job exciting. Um, each of the projects that I just mentioned were nine figures, each of them. Our healthcare facility, nine figures, the hotel, which is in the very, very early stages, that's expected to be nine figures. So the development partners will, one, have to have enough equity to secure the debt financing to develop these. And so we would look for, a sizable balance sheet. Uh, that's not necessarily to say we're looking for the developer to have 100% equity to secure the debt financing, but a sizable amount that they could go out and actually pull this off.
What are your most important factors when it comes to financing? Are you looking for speed, um, rate? What, terms are you kind of in the what piques your interest? Because there's so
So
much different type of capital out there.
there is, and like I said, no two projects are alike. So when it comes to the hotel, because I think this hotel development is going to wind up being a project that I think many others are going to look to in the future and take notes for how we went about doing this. We first looked at different transaction structures to get this hotel developed. We looked at a traditional P3 transaction structure where the university would ground lease its land to a developer who then would have the financing, development, construction, operational responsibilities for pulling this off. We also looked at a joint venture structure where the university would come in and invest its own equity and be in the capital stack. Um, we looked at that transaction structure, and then we also looked at what is common, I think, throughout student housing, but also we've seen it with some other municipally owned hotels, which is a 501(c)(3) tax-exempt bond transaction structure. Ultimately, we decided to move forward with a JV transaction structure. And so within that context, we looked at developers that have done JVs before, and many of them have, but some of them had not. And then those that have done the JV transaction structure, we looked at how much funds, how much equity the developer would be putting into the deal. Because ultimately, the university in a perfect world would like to minimize its financial risk. And so the more equity we would potentially put in, the more that equity would be at risk. So it's a balance. We look at everything, and like I said, expertise and track record those are certainly factors that we also look at, but then balance sheet, liquidity, that those are big factors as well.
What is the committee who decides the final decision on, what they're going to move forward, or the university is sitting on a boatload of capital? What's the decision process to figure out how much they want to deploy versus how much they want to borrow?
So our chancellor is very involved with these decisions, and our CFO, or vice chancellor, who's in charge of financial decisions, are very involved. The university, UC San Diego, has a real estate advisory council, and that advisory council also has an opinion about which way these things tend to lean. So the decision isn't made in a vacuum. I would say it's not made by one person, but ultimately, I think with most public orgs or even private organizations, a committee of sorts makes a decision and then passes that decision down to those that carry out that decision. And I just so happen to be the one that carries that out.
Well, I'm glad I'm talking to the right guy. Um, so when we met in person, one of the interesting things that that we spoke about was about density and how the university is able to think about maximizing density. And I was wondering if you could just explain a little bit about how when you look at projects and underutilized land, um, or I think what we had talked about was existing campus adjacent assets. Um, how do you look at maximizing density? And that's one of the perks of somebody working with you.
Right. So the University of California, through the California Constitution, has a very unique land use entitlement authority. Um, so for those that want to go and research this, it's Article 9 of the California Constitution. And within that authority, we have the ability, with some minor exceptions, to supersede local zoning and land use regs. To give you an example, there was a property that was adjacent from our La Jolla campus where if a private entity wanted to develop it, they would be regulated to a 30-foot height limit. However, because of our land use and entitlement authority, we could go through that 30-foot ceiling, so to speak. And we actually developed a building that was almost 100 feet tall. And that building turned out to be an academic building for some of our departments that were being squeezed out of campus. They were running out of room. So that's one example, but also we have properties further away from campus, one being 7 miles from campus, where again, local zoning would prescribe X number of units if we're talking about multifamily, or in this case, the university is looking to develop faculty and staff housing, which looks and feels like multifamily, but it's a little bit different since it's developed especially for our faculty and staff. So if a private entity were to develop that property going through City of San Diego zoning code, they would be allowed to develop X number of units, density speaking. However, with our land use and entitlement authority, we can exceed that density. So we have creative ways to uh, address or further the university's mission. And one of the ways of doing that, again, attracting and retaining the best faculty and staff, is by providing units to them that are offered below market. San Diego happens to be one of the most expensive housing markets in the country. So that's definitely a benefit to attract and retain the best faculty and staff. Now, how how does that relate if there are those out there that want to do creative things with real estate development? Well, if there's a property that maybe one is looking at and um, you're looking at local zoning and you can only underwrite it to a certain extent, and maybe worth giving me a call and we can talk about how we can possibly work together to see if there's a development play here where we could develop something jointly that would further the university's mission, but also work out for the private partner as well. So like I mentioned earlier, these P3 developments are never alike. Each one is unique. But the good thing is I'd like to talk to a lot of people, so don't hesitate to contact me. And, as they say, talk is cheap. So it's only a few minutes of your time. We can figure it out.
So for those private developers or investors or operators that want to talk to you, can you talk a little bit about what some of the university's constraints are, or maybe decision-making process before they approach you, so they're not wasting your time and they're kind of aligned with where you need to be?
Sure. So first and foremost, the development needs to further the university's mission. So If there are those that want to see exactly what the university's mission is, it's all over the University of California's website. But generally speaking, it's furthering student learning, it's furthering the healthcare mission of the university, it's furthering research. So any types of asset classes that further the mission, that checks off one box. When it comes to UC San Diego, we tend to be looking for properties, or let me put it this way, developing properties that are off campus that tend to have a proximity to either our La Jolla campus or our Hillcrest campus. And when I say proximity, like I mentioned earlier, we developed a property that was across the street from our La Jolla campus. So that's one example. The faculty and staff housing property that I mentioned just before, that's about 7 miles away from our La Jolla campus, but it is connected through the light rail transit system that runs through San Diego. So there is a stop right in front of our property, and folks who wind up living at that property can hop on the light rail and be in the La Jolla campus in about 10 minutes. So there is that connectivity piece to it. When it comes to our Hillcrest campus, again, we're looking at properties that tend to be across the street or have some sort of nexus to the healthcare center that's up in Hillcrest. So there has to be, I would say, a good story, both in terms of furthering the university's mission and also the proximity or location of the property. There needs to be some sort of nexus to the campus. It can't just be a property, out on an island, so to speak. So if
Is
if
there
there
a
are
certain
those,
size of a property or dollar amount that you want to kind of be in a range of?
there really isn't, because again, with our land use and entitlement authority, if you are underwriting a property one way using local zoning and land use, uh, you know, we have the ability, again, with some qualifications, to exceed that. So if you have a property, again, that has a nexus to our campuses, Hillcrest and La Jolla campus, and is somehow connected to it or adjacent to it, that could be the impetus for a very interesting conversation.
So when we were walking around the campus, you showed me a couple of very cool restaurants that were on campus, and I think that might differentiate you from some other UCs. And I was wondering if that falls under your real estate group, and if you want to talk a little bit about that, because I thought it was very cool.
Yes, so our executive director for our real estate department has done an amazing job of bringing in local food and beverage operators onto our campus. So campus does not feel like your run-of-the-mill university campus that's serving, run-of-the-mill food and beverage things. These are restaurants and beverage operators that are around San Diego that are successful and very popular, and they're also on campus. So campus has the feel of being just another neighborhood in San Diego, although it's not a neighborhood. It's an amazing campus. So um, if you own or operate a food and beverage outlet and you're interested about coming onto campus, go ahead and contact me, and I can put you in touch with those within the department that actually spearhead this effort. Um, and I'm happy to do so. It's an amazing thing to walk around campus and get coffee from some of the best coffee purveyors in San Diego and some of the best food purveyors in San Diego.
I think the students are lucky to go to school there, and I hope this is a great plug for the university because I think it's just so unique that you don't have to leave the campus to have a great experience of, going out to dinner, and it's just right there, and it's really hip and cool too.
It is. And, our campus planners have done an amazing job of of planning the campus, which is massive, by the way. It's around 1,500 or 1,600 acres, and just to have the vision and carry that out over many, many years, it takes a tremendous amount of intelligence and foresight. And again, I feel lucky to work in an environment like that. So just coming to work every day and being in that environment is super cool. And so if there's anybody out there that is interested in doing business with UC San Diego from a real estate perspective, definitely contact me and let's have a conversation.
So we talked about a few projects that are in your pipeline. Are there any others that you want to talk about, kind of things that you're working on or other things that are coming your way?
Yeah, so I had mentioned the hotel. So let me just give you a little bit more particulars about that. We we project it to be a 300 key, 30,000 square foot of exhibition or meeting space size hotel. So it's quite large, and we expect to break ground on that in 2028 with an opening hopefully in 2030. And right now we're in the process of interviewing and hopefully selecting a developer to carry that out. We have also three other projects that are in the pipeline, and these are all within, I would say, the multifamily asset class. But like I had mentioned, these are geared for faculty, staff, and grad students. So these three developments or three properties, uh, they will entail 3,000 units, approximately 1,000 units in each property. And the one that is 7 miles from campus is the first one that we are trying to get to pencil right now. It's been a little bit difficult, and you and I have talked about that in other conversations. But that's the first one, and it's located in the Claremont neighborhood of San Diego. The other two being located in La Jolla and in Hillcrest. So if we can get that to pencil, I think that's going to be the next one up, and that will happen pretty quickly. And then we also have another potential P3, which is in the very, very early stage. And I can't say what it is yet, but it's going to be a super cool project. Again, a very unique asset class. Not your typical office, hotel, or multifamily, but a very unique asset class. And we're in the feasibility stage of that right now. But if it comes to be, it's going to be something that's going to be very cool and transformative for campus.
Well, they all sound very exciting, and I'm impressed with all these that you're able to juggle so many large scale projects at one time. So,
Yeah, it takes a little bit of a split personality, I'll say.
if anybody's interested to connect with you, should they email or call you, or what's the best way for somebody to get a hold of you?
Yeah, email's the best. You have my email address, and if you want to post it with this video, that's fine. And, you know, I have no problem getting on the phone afterwards, after we connect, and having a conversation or having a Zoom meeting or even in person if you want to do it old school. Happy to do all three.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for your time today, and it was great talking with you.
It's my pleasure. Thanks, Dana.